With a background in law, Alero Ladipo, Group Head of Marketing and Corporate Communications at the United Bank of Africa plc, has built her career in marketing and communications. With over 20 years of experience in strategic development, customer and product portfolio management, public and media relations, and integrated marketing, to name but a few, she offers her expertise and experience to other aspiring women in coaching and mentoring sessions. Her successes, challenges, and aspirations in this exclusive edition of Femina on Africa 24 English.
My name is Alero Ladipo. I'm the Group Head for Marketing and Corporate Communications for the United Bank of Africa. Well, I studied law. I'm actually called to the Nigerian bar. I studied law firstly in the UK and then back in Nigeria. And then I also have a master's in international trade law. But the interesting thing is that I've never practiced law. After I graduated, I started working with a consulting company that was building up advertising and communication campaigns. So I just used a lot of the experience I had gained from law, from just studying law, to that field, and I've worked in that field now for over 20 years. I joined UBA, first of all, this is my second time in UBA, so this is the second stint, I would say, in UBA. The first time I joined UBA, it was I had worked in financial institutions most of my career, so I was used to a financial institution setup. And I think if I just speak generally about working in financial institutions, they are male dominated, that's one, and then they are numbers dominated. So I was a female coming into a male dominated environment, working in an area that had to do with how people perceived things, had to do with things that you couldn't necessarily touch or feel. They were not numbers. It was about insight. It was about how you make people change their minds. So you can imagine that combination is quite difficult, just trying to get people to understand the importance and the impact of my job, what my job can do for them, especially in the financial, especially in the banking industry. So that was the main challenge, really. But over time, I've learned to speak. Sometimes when you want to get people to understand your point of view, you have to learn to speak their language. So over time, I've learned to speak the language of banking, but almost speak the language of banking when I'm explaining how important communications is to them and how important marketing is to the customer. That's how I overcame, and it was just really about learning, going through some highs and lows, not feeling defeated, taking everything more or less as a challenge and trying to come up with a solution. I think for me, it's just, first of all, being sensitive to the people around you. So first of all, the more you impact people that are around you, then they start to impact people that are around them. So you can see how eventually it starts to flow and permeates other areas. So I start by just being sensitive to the women, their moods, their demeanor around me. And just by starting off with, hello, how are you? You know, sometimes being women, we can go into work and be so focused on maybe what we're trying to achieve for that particular day. So I take time to focus on the women around, ask them how they are. And I do believe that women have an instinct that they should learn to listen to. So if my instinct tells me to dig a little bit deeper when it comes to an individual, I will dig a little bit deeper. Another thing I do is that I offer myself up for coaching and mentoring. So if I feel there's a lady that I could add value to just how she's coping with work and balancing her personal life, I would also just try and say, okay, you know what, every 2 weeks, let's sit down and have a chat. It doesn't have to be about work, it can be about anything you want. I think I had a mentor or mentors when I was younger in my career, and it helped me. It also helped me split between my personal life and my professional life. So I also do that. I mentor, I coach. My door is always open. And I think it's also making sure, another lesson, big lesson I learned was being able to pull down the walls around myself so that people felt that they could come to me. I received feedback once from one of my bosses that I wasn't approachable. So I've spent a lot of time trying to make myself more approachable so people don't feel like they can't talk to me. There was one time we had just done a merger for another financial institution that I was working with. And we had an internal switch, so an internal change of guard. And my boss, my overall boss from a group perspective, had come into Nigeria to help us with that switch. And we had an event that we had an internal event, and we were running really late. And you know, it was quite touching to just see him roll up his sleeves. This was much younger in my career. Roll up his sleeves and start putting chair covers on chairs. So for those of you in an event, you know, most of the time the chairs are covered. And just seeing him put chair covers on chairs. Now this was our boss of bosses. Like, this was my boss's boss. So it was quite humbling. And he said to me then, he said that if one of us fail, we all fail. But if we succeed together. So it doesn't matter who's carrying the chair, and I took that on in my career. So now it doesn't matter. I would do whatever needs to be done in order for us to ensure that we all succeed. We succeed as a team, we fail as a team. There's no I really in anything you do, to be honest. So